Hi, this is Julie at Love's Beginning. Today I wanted to talk about something I'm being shown about thinking, our thoughts, when they feel private and competitive with what we feel and what we perceive to be the thoughts of others, versus being or just an openness that is true communication. So I'm just starting to understand. Um, well, it's not so much about understanding as being, but it's starting to dawn on me what the difference is, what it feels like when I'm doing one versus another. And when I'm doing the private thought thing, the protectiveness, the defensiveness, I feel it more often now. I notice it. I'm able to interrupt it and stop it. Before I start with that, I wanted to just point out, I think I have before, but I like to sit against a light background sometimes to give you the opportunity if you haven't seen a field of light around a body. And I often see this as just light, like white light filled space around a body. This is a way that I see it more easily. Like if somebody's up against a light background, I can kind of see the glow around them, and it always tickles me to see it. So if you notice that around me, you can notice it around anyone and even objects. It's just kind of nice to see the universal life force that emanates from all of us, and that's very, very equal. I'm not talking like the colors of auras here or anything, just that white light that comes from everything, everybody. So, thinking. What I'm noticing is that when I go into judgmental thought patterns, those are necessarily self protective and self defining, and other pushing away and other defining. So you're defining others in a way that pushes them away or distinguishes them from you. What's an example? If I would feel some inadequacy about, let's say, financial matters, thinking that the amount of money I have is little, therefore I'm little and small in comparison with somebody else who appears to have more resources. So if I'm in one of those situations, I notice that I'm defining myself separately. It's nothing, that type of thinking is the type of thing we cover up because we don't want to admit that we're feeling these things. So we might cover it up with conversation, with I don't know, just little egoic patterns we can notice in ourselves, repetitive patterns, nervous laughter. There are certain things, I can't think of a specific example with myself right now. An exclamation. um, I'll find myself exclaiming sometimes and realizing, oh, I'm covering something up that I'm afraid of. So we can notice ourselves trying to keep private or build defenses around any issues where we're feeling superior, inferior, we're defining, we're judging, we're deciding on an outcome in the future for ourselves or somebody else in the world that is less than pleasant or differential in some way. This one's going to have that outcome, that one's going to have this outcome because of this superior, inferior thing going on. So all of that is chopping up our perception, using judgment to do it. And this is stressful. So now that I'm getting more and more in touch with what hurts and what doesn't, that definitely hurts. So what doesn't hurt? What is effortless? Beingness. Just being without judgment. And that's something for us to get used to. It's something for us to accept as not boredom, because anxiety might want to come onto the field here and say, well, nothing much is going on. Nobody's judging anything. Nobody's deciding. Nobody's defining anything. What's happening? The ego will kick up and say that. But if we can just relax into that, what is prior to judgment? What is prior to insecurity? What is prior to all that? that actually feels good. And it's the type of feel good feeling that we can share with others through our presence, through what we emanate. When I'm talking to people about it, I talk a lot about how we communicate a lot telepathically that we're not even noticing. And it's the most valuable communication we do. So if we don't even look at people, we don't even notice people in a way that other people would notice noticing them, or talk to them. It doesn't mean we won't. We might make those connections. But even if we don't, what we emanate, and not just with the people physically around us, but our minds are touching all minds throughout time and space. So what we're sharing with all those sister and brother minds, as sibling minds, divine sibling minds, is our beingness when we just relax into that. And that I'm noticing, and I kind of want to say like, duh, didn't I know this before? That feels good. So that's not the egoic, I feel good because I have sugar or money or vacation or something I wanted, um, versus I feel bad because I lack something or something I think is bad happened. It's not that kind of good versus bad. It's the pre-existing condition. Joy is a pre-existing condition. That's what I feel when I'm not engaged in building up these defenses. So that's been very useful for me to notice. It gives me a perceived place to relax into, and a knowingness that is a space of joy. And also a certainty that when I'm in that space, I'm doing great work. So for from others, I'm sharing with others, touching other minds across time and space, and inviting all kinds of different minds back into what they are, the awareness of what they are. So what I get told about this is you don't even know the minds you're touching when you're it's more like a not doing rather than a doing. Is a being. When you're not doing the defensive egoic thing. So that feels good, and we want to feel good. Um, so I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying learning about that and staying in that space more. I think there was one more thing I wanted to say. Yes. When I talk about telepathic communication, there's the type of telepathic communication that's like, bring home a pizza. You think you get a specific message from somebody. That's never what I'm talking about because I'm not that good at that kind of stuff. Um, I'm talking more about just the simple emanation and what we're inviting other minds, perceived other minds to. Are we reminding them of who they are through being firmly rooted in our being as love, without a lot of defensive action and thinking on top of that? Or are we assisting them in, what do I want to say, in identifying primarily with their egos, because that's what we're doing. We're thinking all kinds of busy thoughts and making all kinds of judgments, and it's nothing to feel guilty about. It's just our pathway to freedom is noticing the doing is painful, doesn't feel good, and very naturally dropping the doing. When we find what feels good to us, we're able to share that with others. And it's very, very simple. So this is helping me a lot, just to talk through it, to notice, to appreciate, and I hope it's helping you. Thanks.